the Hoopstrology podcast, brought to you by the Bayou City, and I'm one of your hosts, Jesus Acevedo Jr., and joining me on this auditory journey is my guy from south side of Houston, Texas, Zodiac GM.
We're back. What's up?
What's up, Zodiac? We are back after a 2-week layoff. Well rested. You know, it feels like those last 2 weeks of December, a lot of businesses just shut down and they just tell employees just go home, right? Like I know for you, in your business where you work, you guys just had 2 weeks off, right? The whole last 2 weeks off.
Yeah, I took the last 2 weeks off just because it was sweet. Took a nice little vacation and it was beautiful just to relax.
Just to relax and to recharge, right? As we head into the new year, right? So yeah, I had about, I think it was 11 days off too. So it was, it was an adjustment getting back to the regular work life. But the NBA didn't stop. But before we get into this episode's topics, so we need to follow along with our educational portion of this podcast of Hoopstrology, and it comes to Cancer. So Cancer follows Gemini. We had a lot of fun talking about Geminis. So now let us talk briefly about Cancers. And the one thing I've always known about Cancers, Zodiac GM, is that they're moody. Would that be a good, like, if you had to describe Cancers in one word, moody, would that be it?
Yeah, you can staple that word into one of their traits. Definitely, yes. Cancers are, they're very moody, but they're one of the friendliest signs in the zodiac as well. So it's a lot going on with the Cancer sign. So very sensitive. I mean, they're so sensitive that they're known as quote unquote the crybabies. So they're nurturers. So they're very. You can get a sense of a Cancer whenever they take care of people, or whenever they always the ones to back you up, the first one to back you up. They're very overly protective. They can be very jealous as well. But sensitive is one of the key words. They can also be very clingy to anything within relationships, within friendships. And they also have very good memory. That's one thing about Cancers. Cancers probably has one of the best memories, in the whole zodiac. They can remember things from way back then, and they have a knack of, saying the stories over and over verbatim. And that's just the part of the way they are. And they're not really confrontational. Think of a crab walking sideways, right? So they try to prevent conflict. But once you pick on them too much, they do have them crab claws, right? To start, clinging, fighting back. So once they do, watch out. But yeah, Cancer is a very unique sign. I like Cancers because you get a sense of family, right? Think of family. So it's also good for an organization because they're the one that kind of keeps the group together, because they want that bond, that emotional. It's a very emotional sign as well, cardinal sign. So they're a cardinal means they're initiator of emotion. So they lead an emotional level. They're typically the first one to say, I love you in a relationship or some sort of emotional aspect. They're usually like the ones to initiate that sort of emotional connection. So that's the way Cancers are. So
it's interesting, out of everything you said, some I knew, some I'm relearning, but the one that I learned for the first time in your description of Cancers is that they're very friendly. And all the Cancers I know, now that I think about it, they would make friends so easily. Not just make friends, but just like be very open, just like very. They knew a lot of people. They were friendly with everybody and had a lot of crowd too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean they're really good people. They're people person. They're good with people and surroundings and everyone else around them. So
what are some Cancer NBA players? Yeah, I think you're about to name some.
Let's do that. All right, Rudy Gobert, Zion Williamson, Kawhi Leonard, Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard, SGA, Tobias Harris, Patrick Beverly, who is a double Cancer, meaning sun and moon, meaning you get the amplified version of that. Patrick Beverly is like the perfect example of a Cancer, right? Derek White, Ben Simmons, and then Michael Porter Jr., Desmond Bain, Steven Adams, and so there's quite a few others, of course, but those are the Cancer basketball players. So there you go. Cancers it is.
You mentioned Dame Lillard, and we're gonna stay on the Cancer train and talk about Dame Lillard. But not just Dame Lillard. We're going to talk about the Bucks and the Milwaukee Bucks chemistry. They're our first topic on our 10th Hoopstrology episode. Zodiac, the Bucks, look, the Bucks are second in the East, right? So this is not to say, hey, it's on fire completely. They're second in the East, 6-4 in their last 10 games. But, some of Giannis's recent comments took social media by storm. And let me just say, because I found them, he said a couple of words that took me by surprise. So he said, quote, "We have to be better. We have to play better. We have to defend better. We have to trust one another better. We have to be coached better. Every single thing, everybody has to be better. Everybody. It starts from the equipment manager. He has to wash our clothes better." End quote. Can you imagine being the equipment manager and he's calling you out?
Like,
Giannis is calling you out, saying, "Hey, you need to wash. We lost because you didn't wash my jersey clean enough." Can you imagine? You're the equipment manager. Listen to Giannis telling you this.
Exactly. Oh my God!
Right? But
that's scary.
But that is scary, right? You're like, oh my God, I thought I did a good job. So now, now he's psychologically thinking, he needs to watch the, Monday morning quarterback as they say, Zodiac. So, but taking all that, the Bucks aren't struggling per se, right? They're getting wins. Like I said, they're second in the East, but it hasn't been consistent, I guess we can say, right? It's been a win here, a win there. Look, they're 25-11, 20-10 in the conference, 16-3 at home. Like I say, good records, but it just on the court, they're winning based solely on the talent they have, right? On the court, it doesn't seem to be gelling. And, on Twitter, so that you were having a conversation with somebody, following Giannis's comments, how somebody said that they replied to your comment and they said Dame Lillard doesn't seem like he has chemistry with anybody on the court. And that's something that you even told us in the preseason that with this trade, this is something you possibly saw happening, right?
Exactly. Yeah. As soon as Dame got traded to Milwaukee Bucks at that time, I knew right offhand it wasn't the best trade as far as for the chemistry will go. And I think it was a polar opposite between him and the Bucks' current best player, which is Giannis, right? At that time, I saw it as a downgrade in their chemistry, mainly because they're taking away a point guard that's very compatible and actually won a championship with Giannis, and that's Drew Holiday. They're removing him from the list and also removing Grayson Allen, who's also compatible with Giannis, and replacing him with Dame Lillard, who is opposite. So Dame Lillard is a Cancer, Giannis is a Sagittarius, fire and water. They don't really mix well together, right? And at that time, I anticipated that the Bucks were going to use Pat Connaughton as a shooting guard, right? Who's a Capricorn, who's also opposite of Giannis and Lopez and Middleton, right? So whenever I assumed that lineup was going to be their lineup for starting, for the start of the season, I was like, okay, this chemistry is not going to this is not going to bode well for them. I mean, you can kind of see them struggle. But then they ended up signing Malik Beasley, who is also a Sagittarius, like Giannis, and that kind of helped save their little starting unit. But not only that, they're very talented, right? And that they're 25-11 as we speak today for a reason, right? Because they do have two of the best players in the league, Dame Lillard, Giannis, even though they're not exactly compatible, but they are talented. Dame Lillard, he can shoot lights out, one of the best shooters and clutch players in the league. And Giannis, just him, he's like, in 2K, you can use him whatever, he'll score 50. It's just the way it is, right?
Right.
So, but the key pieces I look for the Bucks that has extreme polar opposites, it's the head coach, Griffin, who's a Cancer, not compatible, and I always link them with their best player, which is Giannis, right? And also Dame Lillard, not as compatible to Giannis. But guess what? Giannis does have Middleton, who's compatible with. He also has Malik Beasley, Brooke Lopez. I can't remember that name. I don't know. There's a small.
Bo Chumps, which I think I'm saying his name, but
I think that's his name. Yeah, so they're filled with a lot of fire signs that fits him well, but then there's also that water sign in that starting unit that kind of sticks out, and that is kind of obvious when people see it.
I think the head coach is one that I actually wanted to bring up. Adrian Griffin, he's a Cancer. He's he's been in that coaching staff, right? But he was an assistant under Mike Budenholzer. What was Mike Budenholzer? What was his sign?
Well, he's a Leo, and guess he's very compatible. And the whole
Leo
Milwaukee
and
Bucks,
Sagittarius. Yeah.
Sagittarius, he was
So
compatible with Lopez. Oh my God, it was
so
really
so
it
the
was
question
perfect.
that I want to pose to you, Zodiac, is should the Bucks look at head coach as a position to change? Yes, this is Adrian Griffin's first season, but is it better to, like I said, because right now there's no fire, right? There's maybe a small ember, right? Maybe the two sticks are starting to rub. Maybe there's smoke coming out, right? But you want to put it out before any fire gets out of control, especially as you're getting into the playoffs.
Yeah.
What a coach that aligns better with Giannis and Sagittarius and Dame and Cancer, could that possibly change the chemistry of this team? Even though on court it won't change, but from the coach's perspective.
You're asking if there's a coach that can mesh both of them
Right.
together.
Right.
If any, I would say a sign that's a mutable sign. It could be a Gemini, a Pisces, another Sagittarius. I think anything that has a mutable aspect to it, the sign could probably help that. But one thing you got to understand, Giannis is a strong personality. Sagittarius
Right.
are one of the most brutally honest signs in the whole zodiac. So, and
I
his
think we have
expectations
definitely seen
high.
that with the Giannis's comments.
Yes, and the reason why that's a big deal is because some other energies or signs can take his critique well, but some can't. And one of those signs that can't really take it well based on their energies is a Cancer, because they're highly sensitive. Think about it, sensitive. Of course, AJ Griffin's going to put up a front. He's not going to act like he's not phased, but deep down, it's a very, very strong critique against basically him. He's basically calling him out, and again, Cancer's not going to be confrontational, but it's like one of those things you're going to keep inside of you, and it's going to build up, and you're just going to get to the point where, like, okay, forget this. Forget about it. It's not going to work out eventually, possibly, but that's a
Right.
possible. That's a possible issue right there. But if they can work it out somehow, some way, it could work, and they can even still win a championship. They are talented, so just see
Well,
how that goes.
Well, from one coach that could potentially be on the hot seat to one that I would say is on the hot seat, and that's the Los Angeles Lakers' Darvin Ham. So the Lakers are holding on to that 10th seed right now in the NBA, which I guess is early to look at standings, right? But they're currently 18-19, one game under 500, 3-7 their last 10. And clearly something is not going right in La La Land. When they interviewed LeBron James recently, they asked him about Ricky Rubio, and he told the report straight up, this is not going to come out sincere, but it's just because I'm really upset about the game, which is sad. So it's clear that even winning the in-season tournament doesn't fix everything, right? Even though they were crowned those champions. And they asked LeBron, and he said, look, that was just 2 games. We won 2 games, and we're pretty much the champions. So I think this is another team that you also said that you have been saying even before we started this podcast. You've been saying on Twitter that astrology Darvin Ham is not a good fit with this team. So I think it's fair to say he's on the hot seat, right? Like I think especially with the LeBron James coach team.
I would say so, and I think the main piece here really is LeBron James. Okay, technically, if you look at it in a non, because LeBron James has a lot of pull, right? You just have to admit it. He could pretty much be a GM for his own team, right? But the thing is, this team has enough players that are compatible to Darvin Ham, the Austin Reeves, the Hachimura, Christian Wood. He has enough pieces, but the thing is, I have a strong feeling that LeBron James is irritated by a lot of his rotational movements, right? Darvin Ham, he's a Leo sun with a Taurus moon, both fixed signs. What does that mean? That means that they're very stubborn, especially if both of your sun and moon is a fixed sign that's stubborn. Darvin Ham's not going to change anything. Whatever he believes in, whatever he has his mindset to, he's going to stick to it. And that's going to irritate LeBron James to the core. Like, I mean, that connection between LeBron James and Darvin Ham is not good at all, energy wise, right? And I'm pretty sure maybe somewhere down the line, LeBron James even handpicked or probably, wanted Darvin Ham to the team. But I think he's kind of realized or learning that man, there's something off about this. There's some of the decisions I don't like about him. His energy or whatever it is. It's not meshing pretty well because LeBron James, he's a Capricorn. They're very business oriented, right? So they're very goal oriented too. If something's not working out right, they tend to be a little bit pessimistic, and they're pessimistic for a reason because they want to succeed so bad. And if they're not getting there, LeBron James is going to gripe. I mean, Capricorn is one of those signs that will gripe and gripe and gripe until they get it right. And if he's doing that to Darvin Ham, him not changing his ways, that's going to irritate LeBron James even more. Not so much with Anthony Davis, which is their other co-superstar, right? Because he's a mutable sign. He tends to go with the flow. He's a Pisces, right? He'll go with the flow, so he's okay. But I have a strong feeling there's some tension building between LeBron and Darvin Ham. That's just my opinion.
I mean, it definitely feels that way. We've seen James share his frustration, like I said, in more than one interview. I do wonder if the trigger will be pulled because this is his second season, if I'm not mistaken, right? Second season with the Los Angeles Lakers. And even last season was, not. I mean, they made it to the second round of the playoffs. But even then, it was all on talent, right? We can say it was not, and Austin Reeves saved them a couple games.
And if you look back, to be honest, they went that far. They actually changed up their lineup, and their lineup was compatible to LeBron James, Schroeder. They had I can't remember the other point guard that they have, the lefty. I can't remember his name is right off top of it, but they had Schroeder, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, D'Angelo Russell. And those four out of five, I think usually they put Hachimura or even Austin Reeves, that's the fifth person. But 4 out of 5, that's like an A- energy, right? So that's still good. And he he realized that at the end of the playoff. He wasn't really using that lineup in particular in the regular season. They were okay in the regular season, but they kicked up to another level once they adjusted some, with that particular lineup, because they weren't winning, they weren't really dominating series, they were winning games, but they realized, okay, this is working, because they saw it in the fourth quarter. They saw that, hey, Russell and Schroeder, there's something good there. Let's start them, okay? And then LeBron obviously is going to start, Davis is obviously going to start, and it worked out. So, so yeah.
So, final question before we move on to our next topic: what kind of coach, what kind of sign should the Lakers, if Darvin Ham is let go, what kind of sign, what would fit best with LeBron, right?
Ooh, with LeBron, him being a Capricorn is a cardinal sign, right? So it's an earth sign. So any sign that's a water or an earth sign, that's either a fixed sign, maybe a Taurus, someone like Mike D'Antoni would actually be a good coach for LeBron James. Interesting enough, right? Because D'Antoni, him being a Taurus moon with the Gemini, Taurus sun with the Gemini moon, fits very well with LeBron James and even Anthony Davis, right? And someone like Mike D'Antoni would be a good coach. And guess who we won the championship with? Ty Lue. Guess what his sign was? So remember when he was with Cleveland?
Yeah,
Taurus, right? And even now you hear LeBron James raving about Ty Lue, right? Because the connection is there, right? So that's the type of energy that LeBron James likes. He likes that authoritative business, like goal-oriented type of coach with an earthly aspect. Then the fire signs are a little bit more, they're a little bit more fiery, passionate, and stuff like that. But that at times it doesn't really fit well with an earth sign like a Capricorn, which is what LeBron is.
We'll see. The Lakers end up pulling the trigger. Two teams that did pull the trigger on the trade were the New York Knicks and the Toronto Raptors. They made a trade. The Raptors received R.J. Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley and a 2024 second round draft pick, while the Knicks received OG Anunoby, Malachi Flynn, and Precious Achiuwa. I got to say, so far, so that I would say this is a win-win for both teams. And we're going to start off with the New York Knicks. I want to start off because they are almost like a team transform. They are 4-0 since the trade. Their average point differential is 18.5. Their defense has improved. Anunoby's plus 87 is the second highest in NBA history of a player in the first 4 games with the new team. That is pretty amazing. He's doing it on both ends. He's not going to score as many points as Emmanuel Quickley or RJ Barrett, but what he does on the defensive end, and he's a ball mover, and the plus minus shows, right? The team just plays better.
Definitely.
So what I want to ask you is, what were the Knicks before the trade as far as like 4-1, 3-2, and so forth? And now what are they now after this trade?
Well, I'll tell you what, the Knicks were one of those mediocre teams that I always felt like they were a move away from actually making a good synergy. The conflict that I saw with the Knicks really was either the combination of Randall and Barrett mixing in with Brunson. And the reason why I say that was like a bad mix was because Brunson was sort of like their go-to guy, right? But then you have a Gemini and RJ Barrett who he doesn't mix well with, and also Randall, who doesn't mix well with, because Randall's a Sagittarius. So they would utilize a lot of 3-2 lineup. But if you look at the roster, right, I also look at their whole roster in general. They have a lot of mixed energies, meaning like half of the roster is compatible with such, and then the other half's compatible with such, right? When I saw this trade, the first thing that came on mind, I was like, bam, this is the perfect trade. That's a win-win for both teams, because it was too perfect. And what I mean by that is New York got rid of 2 players that didn't fit this team, send them to a team that they do fit in, and in return, they got 2 players that fits them perfectly well. Actually, 3 players that fits them perfectly well, and that's Anunoby, who was a Cancer, who fits with Hartenstein, Brunson, and Achua is another one because he's a Virgo, who also fits in that group, and Malachi Flynn, who's a Taurus, who also fits in that group. Not only that, Josh Hart fits with them, Grimes fits them, Taj Gibson with them. I mean, their whole roster is sort of like a puzzle that they were the missing piece. You get rid of 2 pieces that doesn't fit, and it's interesting to me because the Knicks realize something's not right. Something's not mixing well. But I saw this years ago. They've been having this problem for a while. I'm like, man, this team doesn't fit because of RJ Barrett or Randall, one of the 2, and also, quickly coming off the bench. Because those energies didn't mesh well with their core, and also their head coach, who's a Capricorn. So now the Knicks fits very, very well. They're like 80% or 90% of the roster is all compatible.
Well, so now the starting lineup they use, is it a 4-1?
Right now they use Right now they use Hartenstein, Brunson. It's a 3-2, but look off the bench. 4 or the 5 main pieces that come off the bench are all compatible to Brunson, Hartenstein, and Anunoby.
And how
because that's a big deal. That's a very big deal, because you're just substituting pieces. Once you substitute Randall and then say Achua comes in, and then now all of a sudden you got a 4-1 lineup, right? And then you substitute Flynn and take out DiVincenzo. Now you have a 4-1 lineup. So you see what I mean? So whenever you interconnect those pieces coming off the bench, you have a good synergy all across, which fits them because position-wise it fits them, and energy-wise it fits them. Because you kind of have to align both, right? And this team they improved their synergy a lot. Like they went from a B- to like an A-, which is a big deal. So yeah, it's a big improvement for them.
And how does Tom Thibodeau? What's his sign, and how does he play
Tom
into
Thibodeau is
this?
a Capricorn, which fits very well with Anunoby, Hartenstein, Brunson. I mean, pretty much like 8 players from their roster. Taj Gibson, Evan Fournier. Notice how Taj Gibson always follows them around because they match. There's Cancer's Capricorn. They match pretty well. So. So that's I give them this trade an A+ actually for both sides, but the Knicks are definitely A+. And they did it the right way, and this is the perfect trade for them. I've been saying this for several years, and they did it right this time. So it was a great pickup.
A great pickup for the Knicks. They're 21-15, currently 8. Really, they're tied because from 4 to 8, they're 21-15. So I see now with this trade, I can see the Knicks getting a top 6 seed. And now we'll close it out with the Toronto Raptors, who made this deal also for themselves. Got RJ Barrett, got Emmanuel Quickly in a 2024 second-round draft pick. Now, you would also really like this trade for the Raptors, right? Because now these players fit the Toronto Raptors. And look, they're 3-1 since the trade. So how does it fit now? How does Barrett and Quickly fit now with the Toronto Raptors and the lineup that Toronto uses?
Oh my God, it was perfect. The same thing the way I'm talking about the Knicks. It was perfect. It was perfect on both sides because they got rid of energies that they just kind of switched to the correct team. That's the way I see it. Oh man, my eyes lit up when I saw this trade, and I just kind of saw the starting lineup that Toronto used when they put quickly a starting lineup along with Barrett, Podol, Barnes, and Siakam. I was like, wow, it's rare in the NBA to have a team that have all 5 starters compatible. Okay, there's not too many.
So
There's
there's
a
a
lot of
5-0. There's a 5-0 lineup.
5-0. Yeah, all 5 are compatible. Quickly's a Gemini. So is Bear's a Gemini. Mutable. Air signs, very compatible. Podol is also an air sign of a Libra. Cardinal, very compatible. And then Barnes, you have the 2 fire signs of forward of a Leo and Aries. Barnes being a Leo, Siakam being an Aries. Air and fire mix well. All 5 mix well. I mean, you could just see it when they play. I mean, I was watching the game and I was like, man, this team is moving. Like, they're just passing the ball, alley-oop, boom, right? And they steal the ball, boom, pass it to the corner, 3, boom. Like, you could just tell the synergy was there, right? As soon as I saw the trade, I mean, like I said, I was like, wow, the Raptors went from a mediocre synergy team to like an A+ starting wide, A+, because they made a big improvement. And the unique thing about this lineup is their roster is their bench. They have everyone on their bench that they use a lot of, like, Young, Boucher, McDaniels, they're all compatible within themselves, even Trent Jr., Schroeder. So they have a secondary group that they can also utilize that have the right positions, like forward, power forward, shooting guard. They can actually put a unit out there that's all compatible with them, and they can still make it work. And that's the reason why I like this trade a lot, because this was what both the Toronto and Knicks needed, like, for a while. They went from mediocre to like now they're up there, and you can get a sense when you watch them. They're more wholesome, right? The chemistry is there. People talk about, wow, man, they're like one of the best offensive rating teams now. So great trade for the Toronto Raptors.
And how does their coach, Darko Rajakovic?
Yeah,
He's
a
Pisces, right? How does he fit in with all these air signs and fire signs?
So the Pisces being a water mutable, right? Mutable is the key thing here because they're able to adapt, right? But water and fire don't really mesh well. But who cares? Because those 5 alone. I mean, those 5 alone. When you hoop, when you play with all these other players, like in 5, that's all compatible to you. It's just gonna click no matter what. You know what I'm saying? You could put any coach out there. It's just gonna naturally click amongst themselves. They'll figure it out on their own too. But not only that, as I mentioned, with the bench unit, with leading the crew, with Schroeder being a Virgo, Trent Jr. being a Capricorn, Boucher being a Capricorn, they have a lot of earth water signs that are compatible to their head coach, who's a Pisces. So this has a unique Toronto has a unique identity of 2 groups that can match well, and that's very good. I consider personally a lot of the mutable signs that as a head coach tend to do well because if they are able to adapt, the Gemini, Sagittarius, the Pisces, and so on, right? And Virgos, they have the ability to adapt. And what do you need whenever you play a game or a series? You're going to need to adapt, right? You can't be fixated and stick on one line if it's not working. You're like, oh, no, you can't force it, right? But when you have someone that has ability to adapt on the go, that's a good thing. And he also has the right pieces to make those adjustments on the go. So that's a big plus for him.
It's a big plus. And now here's the thing with the Toronto Raptors, though. They are not done. The name Pascal Siakam has been thrown out there a lot. What it's more than likely that, right, he'll be moved before, because he's a free agent after this season, and they don't want to lose him for nothing. So what kind of one team that I think maybe they should look at is the Sacramento Kings. Maybe they could get Harrison Barnes in return, another Gemini, right? And Pascal Siakam would help the Kings. At this point, Siakam is a better player than Barnes. Different, right? Barnes is still a very suitable NBA player, but I think with Siakam, he's almost like that third star that kind of slots in, right? And Barnes is a very complimentary player. He could fit in with the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, you're right. He can fit in the Toronto Raptors, but I mean, personally, like, I know I've been hearing a lot with Barnes leaving, but man, that would hurt a team because, well, because Siakam is an elite player, right? But
He is.
sometimes it's a business move, right? But if anything, I would try to get a piece of that's still compatible, so they can keep that same energy, same level of intensity whenever they run the floor. I mean, you could just see it. Players I like, even I heard Kuminga's name coming around. He's a Libra who does fit well with this crew. So if they do a swap between Siakam and Kuminga, that still fits the Raptors, chemistry wise. So Kuminga, Lauri Markkanen, these type of players, John Collins, those type of players, even Harrison Barnes, they all fit this Raptor squad if they were to make such a trade like that. So yeah.
Well, we'll see what the rest of this NBA season makes for the Toronto Raptors and the New York Knicks, who made this trade. The first, I guess, a big trade this NBA season, we can say, Zodiac. But with that, we close our 10th episode. Any final words, Zodiac?
Follow us on Twitter, X, the Zodiac GM, and Hoopstrology.
And follow me, Jesus_Acevedo Jr., and follow the Bayou City. And thank you so much for listening. And don't forget to subscribe. See ya.